Hello, viewers. My name is Videlis Njoki, and my sign name is Aki on my forehead. So today, just hold on. I'm very much shocked because I have two guests. Now, the voice show, welcome back to the voice show. And the voice show is to educate and also to change your opinion about people with disability. And this month, it's Deaf Awareness Month. And that's why you see that I have different guests. So kindly introduce yourselves and tell us which show you host here at Science TV.
Thank you, Fidelis. My name is Ruth Wairimo. My sign name is R on my left hand. I am a host and I also teach the classroom show and sign out
Okay,
loud.
you've heard. She does sign out loud and also she teaches sign language here at Science TV. And as you can see, she's a very beautiful lady, and that's understandable. Now, to you, to the gentleman in the show.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Elvis Odiambo, and that is my sign name. And I am deaf. My work here at Science TV is as a sports host and as a news anchor. And I also have a show called Sign Out Loud where we interact. And there's very many opportunities for the deaf here and to empower more people.
He has really explained clearly. He said that he's a deaf person and he's very much proud. So, now back to me. My name is Videlis, and yes, I'm deaf. So, maybe the beautiful lady can tell us if she's deaf or she's hearing or she's a sign language interpreter.
For sure, I am not hearing, I am deaf.
It's okay. Thank you so much for letting the viewers know. And if you thought she was hearing, I'm very much sorry. She's deaf. Okay, so now you said that this month is Deaf Awareness Month. So maybe Elvis, kindly tell us what does Deaf Awareness Month mean, or what do we expect during the Deaf Awareness Month? So tell us more about Deaf Awareness Month.
Okay. So, Deaf Awareness Month, the main aim of this is this is celebrated every year, annually. And because you see many people, the hearing communities especially, don't know a lot about deafness. So you see this helps, to create awareness and to create more information for the hearing world so that they can know and respect the deaf, and so that they can also know that the deaf can also do the same things that they too can do. Because during this month we also advocate for work accessibility to work, to information. And sometimes we always have rallies where we create awareness so that the hearing society can know about the deaf, and sign language as well can spread to other people that it hasn't reached yet. For example, we have a leader in C who is a deaf person advocating for the others. And once you see the hearing people see this, then they see that even the deaf themselves can do the same things that they can do, and that we are all equal. And this also helps those who've been discriminated against so that they can be empowered and move forward. This also helps, parents to give their children who are deaf opportunities, TVETs, to join TVETs, colleges, and continue, and even reach to the point of having work themselves. So you see, sometimes when you see, even here at Science TV, us doing the news and the shows, people are normally shocked that so even deaf people can do this. And this is what we're trying to create, so that we can create more opportunities, and even the interpreters that we use can help us with the eradicating the communication barrier. So this month awareness helps us a lot, and it also helps creating job opportunities, and that is in terms of interpretation. You see, there's also a concern with the interpretation, that some people only join it not for the passion, but for the opportunities that it gives, and that is not should not be the case. But during this month we are advocating for more people to join us, because deaf culture is a beautiful culture. It's a beautiful language as well, and we are also as patient, and we are also as kind-hearted as all other hearing people as well. So we always celebrate it in September, and it's always very interesting.
You've heard what he said, that every year in September, we all celebrate Deaf Awareness Month, where we create awareness about the deaf culture and the way of living of the deaf, not so also Deaf Awareness Month is creating awareness about the deaf and also learning how to sign. Just wait. So now to you, Ruth, I have a question. So I have a question which I would like to ask you. So being a deaf, which disability is this?
Deaf. But
So which problem do the deaf have? Because we do have different disability, right? So being a deaf, what does it
okay,
mean?
true. Like for example, me, a long time ago, I understand that the condition is about being deaf.
But being deaf, which disability is this? So being a deaf, that means that it's impossible for one to hear, and also it varies. So we have different types of deafness. So can a deaf person hear?
Impossible.
Can a deaf person speak?
Impossible. Some can, some cannot. So it varies. Some can deep read, some cannot hear fully, some can hear a little bit.
You
it
see,
varies.
she has really explained very clearly that we have different types of deafness. We have people, the deaf who can lip read, and we have those who cannot lip read. So it just depends with the level of hearing. We have hard of hearing. So I want to ask you, Ruth, now, are you comfortable with signing or you're comfortable speaking?
For me, I'm comfortable with sign language,
You're comfortable.
but some people are stuck. They say sign language is hard. For example, the Kikuyu, me, I cannot hear, so I'm only comfortable with signing. Just that. That is okay with me. Lip reading might be a challenge for me.
So the theme of this year is to ensure accessibility in communication for all the deaf persons. And also that those who are comfortable with lip reading, they're not comfortable with signing. But so there are those deaf who are very much comfortable with signing, and you shouldn't force them to lip read. So now, Elvis, are you comfortable with sign language or comfortable with lip reading?
Now, for me, I think I'm more comfortable with using sign language, because sign language is simple, soft than verbal communication. That's personally for me. For me personally, I like using sign language because of the beauty that comes with it. For example, describing how beautiful a lady is. You see, that's why I love sign language.
Elvis, you're not being serious, because you say that you sometimes you try to use sign language. That's just a show off. It's a show off. Yeah, I'm very much sure it's a show off. So now another question to you, Elvis. Now, this is the month of Deaf Awareness Month, right? have you had people's opinion about this day? And also, there are also myth and conception about this day. Have you had any of it?
Yes, there's very many myths and misconceptions in the world, and you see that comes because lack of interaction with the deaf community. There are some few information that is true, yes, but then most of it are false. For example, many people believe that deafness is a curse. That is the main one.
Those are not my words. Those are
Yes,
not my
they say
words.
deafness is a curse, and you see that's why we are trying to emphasize and trying to promote the Deaf Awareness Month so that we can explain these myths that are there in the society. For example, you see, many parents, fail to pay their children's fee, believing that it's a curse, and that is not true. And for even right now, we are advocating to make sure that there's interpreters in the health facilities so that we can have clear communication between the doctors and the deaf themselves. For a long time, we've been relying on written information, and that was a big challenge, because maybe you've gone to see a doctor and you want to a prescription, and they give you the wrong one because of the communication barriers. So that's why we're emphasizing to have interpreters or the doctors themselves, the healthcare givers, to learn sign language so that we can be able to interact one on one, because you see some conditions are private. For example, I believe 10 years ago there was a very big problem with communication, and very many deaf people suffered under wrong prescription. Many people got even were believed to be having mental challenges, and that was a big problem. So that's why it was important. For example, Kenyatta Hospital, they had a program where the staff there were learning sign language and to have interpreters so that we can have correct prescription. For example, you've come with a very serious condition and you see you need an interpreter so that it can be clearly diagnosed, so that we can get the correct prescription and so that the doctor can be able to help. Now, my only concern and the only thing I want to emphasize is sometimes the hearing people misunderstand. This misconception that deafness is a culture, I think, has to be fixed. And the other thing is the sympathy part of it all. We need to explain that we don't need the sympathy.
Wait, those are not my words. Okay, Elvis, continue. I'm sorry about that.
For example, you've a lady like Ruth, a hearing person sees her, how beautiful she is, then starts saying, "Oh God, why is this one deaf?" That is not something to. We don't want the sympathy. We are proud to be deaf, and we are just the same as any other person as well. So right now, we are seeing that very many hearing people right now are getting motivated to learn sign language, and we're ready to even offer sign language, because that is a very big opportunity for us as well to bridge the communication gap. So every year, September, we will never stop doing the Deaf Awareness Month and the Deaf Awareness Week, so that these will increase the value and create more awareness on not just deafness, but create also educate about the persons living with disabilities as well. So during this month, I believe it's very important and a perfect opportunity for us. I also want to thank you for the interaction, but more importantly, we have to remove that sympathy and that misconception that deafness is a curse. Those have to go.
I repeat again, those are not my words. I believe that most of people, when they meet a deaf people, they feel that that is a curse, a generational curse, or there's something that the family did which is wrong. So those are the myths that the deaf people get to experience. And sometimes you get someone telling you that there is some medication you can take so that you can start hearing. But the first time Someone made a deaf. The first time you meet a deaf person and you get that they're very much beautiful, people tend to feel so sorry. So you really don't know what their condition is. So for your information, I remember the topic of, sorry, before we continue, the theme of this year is creating accessible communication grounds for all. So right now, let's take a short break, but we'll be right back to continue with the sweet story. Welcome back to the Voice Show. And truly, today's story is very much exciting and interesting. And I believe that you're seeing it for yourself and you're hearing it. And as you are all aware, this month, it's Deaf Awareness Month, where we create communication accessible to all. So Elvis was telling us that people have different opinions and different misconceptions about the deaf. Some of them feel sorry about them, and others think that it's a curse. But Ruth, you are a beautiful lady. But what are the misconceptions you've heard about the deaf? You see, when she when she meets with the hearing, people don't believe that she's deaf. People believe that she's hearing. You see, so when you have basic lip reading, I believe other people believe that you're not deaf. So they sometimes ask you, how can you voice at the same time you are deaf? So just wait as we continue with the show, you'll learn more. So kindly, how can we make communication accessible to all?
Okay. My opinion, I believe that the government can take leadership and KICD as well, so that they can lead and help with the increasing accessibility, to ensure that there is accessibility to information for everyone. For example, maybe you see the National Council. You see, the National Council focuses on all people with disabilities, and sometimes you see they focus on majority. They focus on people with physical disabilities, but many times there's a lot of confusion and we miss a lot of information. So I believe that we have to start making sure from the government, and discussions have to be had to ensure that there's accessibility for all, and accessibility in different places, in hospitals, in churches, in schools, in courts, everywhere, that we have accessibility and equality in every places. Because you see, when there's an interpreter, for example, in an institution, when the deaf see that there's an interpreter, then they feel, they feel more free to join and go to that place for services. But I will have to emphasize that communication is a very big challenge. And for example, maybe you are applying for a job. If there's an interpreter there, then I think the job interview might go a bit smooth. But without an interpreter, they'll always tell you, you continue waiting. But during that time, you see, there's no way we can feed ourselves, and there's no way we can have, something in our pockets so that we can continue and have a dignified life. Very many times, you see, we apply, we're waiting, and without any feedback. I also have to emphasize again, and I'll repeat this: accessibility in the hospital is very important, because there's always a lot of communication barrier there. We need more interpreters in the hospitals. In courts, we have, yes, a few interpreters, but the hospital sector, I think, needs more, interpreters. So I think we should make it equal. Job opportunities, just as it is for the hearing, the deaf should also be, given the equal opportunity, and not favoring, the hearing and leaving out the deaf. Accessibility to information, because we always get information very late, and that is something that we've tried really much, and many times many deaf people normally, we give up on very many opportunities. Because, for example, there's an advert for a job opportunity. Most times the deaf will get the opportunity late, or will get to know about it very late. And I hope that we'll work together moving forward, we'll cooperate. And I know during this month, we'll ensure that many people wake up, and that we'll have, moving forward, we'll have equal opportunities, and will not be sidelined, and there'll be equality for all. If there's a job opportunity, then it will be equal for all, the deaf and the hearing as well. And the government has helped a lot with the sports sector, and the only problem that is left is the job sector, where there's no opportunity for getting the notices and the advertisements.
He has listed different things. He has talked about the hospitals, the doctor, the nurses. We also need sign language They also need to learn sign language, so that it will be easy when it comes to diagnosing, so that when you go to the hospital, you're not stuck. They don't know the condition that you are in, so that becomes so hard for you to get treatment. Or sometimes they give you a wrong medication because of the communication barrier. So now Elvis has also explained to us clearly that if they're not able to communicate in sign language, and they're not able to learn sign language, then they can employ a sign language interpreter in the education sector, in the hospitals, in the courtroom, so that they can make communication accessible and information accessible to the deaf persons. Because the deaf people are just the same as other people without disability, and they've not done anything wrong for them to deserve being deaf. So let's get a solution to the language barrier, so that maybe we don't feel guilty or something. So when we go to court, we are able to know if one is guilty or they're not guilty, because the information is accessible to everybody. So most of the time when you go to court, you find that it's very hard for them to know if they're guilty or they're not guilty. So when they go to school, sometimes children are not ready to go to school because of the same environment. So now back to you, Ruth. This is Deaf Awareness Month, right? So what are the plans for this month? So this is Deaf Awareness Month. So what have you planned? Are there conferences that you want to join, or how do you want to make the Deaf Awareness Month remarkable?
It is true. I have a concern, maybe about conferences, meetings, for example.
Is it your plan?
No. Maybe under Science TV, that one I will come. And if there are other conferences outside and I'm invited, I don't mind accepting. But for now, I don't have an invitation yet.
So her plan is to join different programs, which are different programs and events that create awareness, and also if she is invited. Now, my brother Elvis. Just wait. Ruth, kindly explain to us about and deaf culture and how they communicate. How can you call the other person? Kindly explain to our viewers.
It is true when I no, you
So,
cannot
how
because
do
they
you call a
cannot
deaf
hear.
person?
I just wave, only waving. Yeah, just that.
What
Or
if
when
there's
maybe
no
it is
light?
at night and there is darkness, I keep repeating what I want to tell the deaf person.
So, Elvis, can you add something on deaf culture? How do you call a deaf person?
In the deaf culture,
Or do you throw a
if,
stone
for
to
example,
them?
you see Ruth is very far, you're trying to wave, Ruth is deaf. And then, many people pick a stone to
That's
aim,
wrong. It will hurt the other
tries to
person.
aim at Ruth. But you see, I think you can maybe, throw a stone to the side. That's, that might work. But aiming directly at, Ruth, then that might scare her. And also, trying to wave and, insisting tapping someone very vigorously. I think that can maybe hurt someone. So I think you should be gentle, tap them, and then they'll know how to, they'll know you're calling them and communication. I think we must be able to, also allow each person time to, finish what they're saying and continue with the discussion. Also, for example, if it is at night, you see, without light, then it becomes a problem to see. We cannot see clearly because we rely on signing, and that requires, visualizing, and that becomes also a challenge. Also, in the deaf culture, for example, we are communicating, and then you come and pass in between us. That is really upsetting.
You see?
That shows that you don't have respect for us as people. People who are deaf, we understand this very well, but sometimes you see the hearing people don't understand this, and when we react, they think that we are crazy. So I think after this, the importance of Deaf Awareness Month, so that we can teach and educate each other, so that we can reduce the stigma and reduce all those barriers. But it's better for us to explain.
Also, Fidelis, like, let me ask you a question. Sometimes you see a deaf person walking on the way, there is a car behind them, and they are just hooting and hooting and hooting. So you can just stand and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm deaf."
Sometimes it's a very good to learn experience for deaf person. So this is the reason we're having the voice show, where we have to educate, and also so we try our best to have the voice show so that we can have different topics, and also to change the perception of how people view the deaf person and how they communicate, and also to break the communication barrier. We don't have other problem apart from the communication barrier, because we have different skills. We live a normal life like other people. We go to meetings, we meet friends, we disagree, because we are all human beings. So see you on the next show. and bye. Wait. So we want to say something. Happy
International
Deaf Awareness
Awareness
Awareness Month.
And the
And
theme
the
of this
theme,
year,
communication,
making
access to
communication
communication.
accessible.
Bye-bye.
Bye.